Okay, welcome back. It is 9/1 of 2015. We're going to continue on with our discussion of Aquinas on the soul, and we're going to be moving up through page 45 now. So within the first 50 pages, he gives us a fairly refined structure. We actually get a pretty refined look at a structure. We're going to begin with block 1, the sentient soul. And we see here that the sensations are received here and converted to psychical phantasms. And basically, with Aquinas, in every realm, when the sensation transitions to another region, there's always a transformation of the sensation as it makes that entrance into a new region. So from the body to the sentient soul, sensation gets converted to psychical phantasm. So it goes from sensation to phantasm. And it is the potentially understood sensation as a phantasm. And Aquinas says that in the realm of the sentient soul, we accrue these as a collective. We actually, even at the level of the sentient soul, we start doing a little bit of grouping. We actually create a collective of phantasms as the potentially understood, as the potentially intelligible, as the not yet intelligible, but as that which will be delivered to the possible intellect for further work. And of course, when we make that transition out of the sentient into the intellective, there's going to be another transition of the entities, because now a phantasm is going to change and be transformed into generalization. But the possible intellect is where the intelligible work is done. It is the supreme part of the soul. It is the eternal part of the soul. And the first thing that happens is that conversion. Phantasm is converted to abstract, immaterial generalization. Note 6 there. It is converted to abstract, immaterial generalization. But the work of the intellective is to move the process forward to the intelligible and the universal. So the self wants to seek the universal separate substance of the eternal truth out of that abstract generalization. And we will acquire these intelligibles as individuated, intelligible things. When we do that, Aquinas says that each intelligible thing does contain within itself a mark of universality, a mark of its deeper and more significant meaning of the true, of the universal, which we desire to extract out and to identify as a sign. And we will do that through a reflective knowing, or reflexive knowing. So the entire process of acquiring the universal for Aquinas also means we're moving toward acquiring self-understanding. It's always a reflexive type knowing. So the possible intellect becomes the power of the soul that transcends body. It can transcend phantasm. It can transcend generalization to reach universal signification. It is the power of the soul for transcendence. And it is seeking the true, and the methodology for acquiring the true is basically through comparison. By comparing similar entities, we can compare them and find that relevant mark of universality that they carry, and we can identify their deeper signification. So it's all about a methodology of comparison, and through comparison we can extract signification. And it's all about finding that mark of universality that speaks also to our own self-understanding. But when we do this, Aquinas tells us that in note 11 that those intelligible individuated species end up becoming diverse entities, and they reflect a gradation of being, different grades of being. There ends up being kind of a hierarchy of being. So there's a further understanding of how the collective also becomes refined. The general collective that we had in that sentient soul is going to be something that's more or less a hierarchy in the intellective soul. It's going to be the deeper, significant truth will also reveal levels of being and levels of signification. So our collective starts to get refined to a better distributed collective of deeper signifying universals or signs. And so note 12, we do reach, along with this refinement, the level of self-understanding as well. We acquire our species of deeper significance from this work of the intellective soul by seeking the universals as proper object. And so we acquire our universality of species through the species of other universality things. So we find our own identity through the identity of the universal truth. By seeking the universal truth of each entity, and then by seeking the collective universal truth of those entities as a hierarchy of the levels of being, we also will reflexively fold back within ourselves inwardly and reflectively and develop a self-understanding and acquire our own notion of the universality of humanity. What does it mean at a universal divine level? What does it mean to be human in God's eyes? So we reach a deeper understanding of the significance of humanity, along with acquiring the deeper significance of these individuated entities and the collective that they point to. Now from here, we want to step up to 3, which is that Dekunta threshold, because Aquinas tells us here that our dialogue with other selves that are also seeking the truth of what it means to be a humanity under God, that dialogue with other individuals will allow us to examine a multitude of species, and it also will introduce the temporal continuum, because some will have ideas about the past of an event. Some will have ideas about the present of the event. When we get a temporal continuity by engaging in dialogue, we get to the broader picture. If we engage in dialogue, people can say, well, I remember when that was evolving out of this situation, and I know I can kind of see where it's headed. You get ideas on the temporal continuum by entering into dialogue with other individuals who are also seeking the deeper universal truth under God. So the Dekunta threshold is introduced. That is Aristotle's term, and it simply means that it's the place where we propose a supposed truth and seek to refine it through dialogue. The Greek concept dokeo is supposed truth, and so the Dekunta threshold is where we posit a supposed idea of what we consider the true concerning the individuated, intelligible species of an event and the event as a whole. We offer our supposition of how we perceive the true, and then through dialogue that will get refined. And so it's a place of sharing ideas. It's a place of sharing signs or preconcepts. It's a place of sharing that hierarchy of being and how we see the hierarchy of being unfolding. And then we get it refined by people that see it from a different temporal perspective. So it's a very important area, because out of that dialogue, we're going to posit our idea of the true. And so instead of going to 4, let's go to 4b, the realm of positing. And the realm of positing, where we posit our idea of the true after refining it in the Dekunta threshold, is going to be the genus of body. The body as existing takes place through a form being posited in the genus of body. In this way, the body acts as distinct from the soul. It has that separation of this bordered area, borderline of positing. So this is where the supreme ideal of the intellective soul is posited as that which we seek of the true, and the soul is established here in the region of positing, at this boundary line of positing. But here's where the act of existing, our particular, our individuated idea of the true, is posited on what we seek to become accomplished. So the way we got to perceive this realm of positing is the individuation of universality. We individualize the universal truth that we acquire, and then we, in an individual way, we want to relate it to our historical reality. So positing is individual based on the universal. We acquire that universal out of the Dokunta threshold. We posit an individual version of it in the realm of positing, and from there the body will enact it as an act of existence. But that realm of positing, it empowers the self to go out and to act. It's an inertia. Positing creates an inertia of wanting to act. And when we get to the body will enact the positing, but the body also enacts what the nutritive soul and the sentient soul gives it. So there are levels of positing for the body. It will receive positings of the nutritive desire as well as the intelligible. So the body is always responding to positings out of the soul, but the soul posits desire. The soul posits, well, the sentient soul is more of the receiving side of the soul, but the nutritive posits the baser element of the soul to the body, and the intellective posits the higher intelligible notion of the true to the body for the act of existence. So you got the nutritive positing the base elements, the intellective positing the higher elements, and the sentient receiving the sensations. Now the body goes out of itself through the realm of positing and posits the act of existence. And here we learn in note 2 that the true for Aquinas is correspondence between intellect and thing. So that's a great point, because Aquinas is telling us that it's great to hold the true, it's great to believe in the good under God's sovereignty, it's great to hold that in your intellective soul, it's great to believe that and deposit that in the genus of body, but you need to become a servant and you need to enact the good that God desires to accomplish. You need to enact the kingdom of God. You need to enact God's truth. If you're going to do that, you're going to do it through the act of existence, and it's only when you reach correspondence that truth is reached, fully actualized. So the intentionality of positing has to move from intentionality to actuality, and when intentionality becomes actuality, then truth is acquired for Aquinas. And so we can see there's quite a refinement here. We've really gone from the receiving sentient soul to the thoughtful possible intellect to the discussing dialogue of the Dokunta threshold to the positing of the ideal that is becoming an individuated universality that needs to be enacted, and then we move from there to enacting, because truth is correspondence between the intellective soul and actuality. So we've got quite a refinement here from Aquinas, but we've also got something that's even equally as important. We've got refinement of the structure, because one thing about Aristotle, and one thing that Aquinas completely agreed with as far as Aristotle is concerned, is that Christian theology can be science. Christian theology is not all speculative. It can present proofs. And of course we know that Aquinas did present his 5 proofs for the existence of God. But for Aquinas, he wants to seek what Aristotle sought, and that is to make philosophy and make theology scientific. And what that means at a technical level, it means that theology is geometric. And in the doctrine of the soul, it means the soul is geometric. It has a geometric shape of 3 sides: the nutritive, the sentient, and the intellective. But on a larger scale, the structure of the true is geometric for Aquinas. So we've got kind of a geometric grid that we're looking at in this flow chart, but that it is perfectly sensible to Aquinas. It's perfectly sensible to have a geometric grid to represent the true. Because the true, God's truth is scientific. Theology can be scientific. Philosophy can be scientific. And it is scientific as it is geometric. And it is geometric as it explicates and articulates the geometric structure of the soul. And that geometric structure of the soul does go out of itself. So it's going to include geometric constructions and elaborations beyond the soul itself, because it does go out of itself in positing. So our grid is getting refined through further geometric elaboration, and we're going to continue on with this. We're going to see how this geometric design changes and gets refined. But in this lesson, we did add the geometric section of Docunta threshold, and I'm sure we're going to have quite a few more revisions as we go, but that'll put us up through page 45 on the doctrine of the soul.